Rising food and fuel prices driven by the war in Ukraine have stoked fear and left millions of Africans facing food insecurity and threatening the stability of countries across the continent. Paul Ndiho has more.
The ripple effects of US-led sanctions against Russia have led to soaring commodity prices, leaving millions of people, especially in Africa, at risk. For example, data published by the United Nations shows that 32% of Africa's total wheat imports from 2018 to 2020 came from Russia and 12% from Ukraine. More than a dozen African countries currently rely on imports from Russia and Ukraine for more than 50% of their wheat supply. Somalia and Benin rely on Russia and Ukraine for 100% of their wheat supply. According to the International Committee of the Red Cross, about 346 million people in Africa are facing severe food insecurity. Kapumba Shula, a Zambian economist, says the US-led sanctions imposed on Russia have led to soaring prices for essential commodities.
It's the fuel price, and that's affected because Russia is a major supplier of oil, and the sanctions that are being placed on Russia have repercussions on the global energy price. Secondly, it will be on commodities. Ukraine is a major wheat exporter around the world, so it exports a lot of wheat, and that affects commodity prices.
Analysts say the effects of sanctions on Russia and monetary policy being pursued in the US to prevent the country from tipping into recession are also impacting the global economy. That includes the appreciation in value of the dollar following significant interest rate hikes by the Federal Reserve in a bid to tame inflation.
Any economic issues in the US are likely to affect not only Africa but the entire world. And remember, the currency, the most global currency that is used in the world is the US dollar. And therefore, if you get an inflation in the US, it will have an impact on all of us in terms of supplies and so many things.
In June, Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema told the European Parliament in Brussels that his country is well pressed to weather the global food crisis worsened by the war in Ukraine.
As the world faces critical shortages of key agricultural produce, and as we witness the devastating effects of food insecurity in all our regions of Africa and beyond, these three things are challenging our own economic reconstruction efforts: food prices, fuel prices, and fertilizer prices. And they're beginning to drive the cost of living, which will impact negatively more on the very poor that we would like to support to improve their living standards.
The West accuses Russia of blocking vital grain shipments from Ukraine to force clampdowns on sanctions over the war affecting its economy. Hichilema, whose government inherited 17.3 billion in debt when he was elected last year, is working to restore battered relations with donors and restructure the loan. Zambia was the first country in Africa to default during the COVID pandemic. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.